All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Again, it is Darren from Tenantcube with our monthly webinar. And today I have with me James Fernandez. James is a real estate investor. As you can see, as with a lot of real estate investors, the life never stops. It's, go, 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 especially when you're in something like today's topic where you have already scaled or will be scaling your operation. So I just want to start by thanking everybody for joining us. Of course, we do record these sessions so you can view it later. And if you have any questions, please feel free to hold them or post them now, and we'll take care of them later on. So to kick it off, I'd like to welcome you, James. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I apologize for kind of always being out on the road. This is kind of my whole life, unfortunately, right now, but it's a price I'm willing to pay. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Hopefully what we're talking about can help someone do whatever they want to do or whatever their goals are. And yeah, ready to get into it.
Excellent. Well, and I mean, I think that's a great place to start. Even being able to join us from your car, I think it just kind of speaks to what we're talking about today, is scaling operations. But before we even get there, I'd be curious to understand a little bit about your background, because you haven't always been an investor. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So where it kind of all started for me in terms of investing was I wanted to buy a car that I could not afford without someone paying me to buy it. So that's kind of where it started. I wanted to buy a Tesla Model 3. I found out like in a house that I already had purchased that I lived in to like move out of my mom's basement, basically, that I could rent out a portion of it for a friend for basically the same as a car payment. So that's kind of where that started. After that, I started learning a little bit more about the different strategies to strategically renovate and do refinancing on the house. And when I did the refinance on the first home, it was like $140,000 check that was completely life-changing to me. Realizing the power of that and kind of the potential, that's kind of where I kept going. I was still working full-time as an engineer at that point, but I used that money to buy more properties, which in turn got refinanced after renovations and stuff as well. And then I ended up leaving my job earlier this year, and now I'm doing this full-time. So
yeah, that's pretty amazing. And a lot of the stories I hear, whether it be a small landlord, somebody who's halfway through their journey, or somebody who's fully established, it almost always starts as, I needed X, I needed Y, I needed Z, I needed something done, and it's almost out of necessity that kind of arises. And for you, obviously, it was with the Tesla. But the interesting thing I think you said there was just the increase that you had from the time, obviously, you had purchased your home to the point you refinanced. How long was of a window was that before you kind of it clicked in your head and you made that move?
Yeah, so I purchased the home in about 2016. I was living there. That's kind of it. It's like a 2-bedroom upstairs and a 1-bedroom basement. There was like a kitchenette type of thing in the basement at that time. And the people, I just had a whole house to myself. And I'd gone to this conference, the Ontario Real Estate Conference in about 2019, like April 2019. And they were talking about Airbnb. And I didn't even know what that was at the time. And they're talking about all the cash flow that they could create by just renting out a portion of their home. And that night I went home and I kind of looked around at how much of the house I was actually using. And it was about, I went from 1 bedroom to the kitchen island to the bathroom, and then I left. I didn't use the dining room table. I didn't use the living room. I didn't use the entire basement. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? This is complete waste. Let's see what this Airbnb thing's about. So I packed all of my stuff, my clothes basically, and then I just threw everything in the basement at that point and tried it on Airbnb. So yeah, it was just kind of going with a thing that I wanted to try and seeing what happened, and it's been going since. So
yeah, well, that's pretty interesting. So you started to expand to Airbnb, and this is something I get a lot of questions about, especially from small landlords who have probably heard the hype about Airbnb, but are
Definitely.
unsure because with the hype also comes the horror stories, right? Whether it be from the municipalities cracking down or from partiers. What's your experience with Airbnb been like as you've scaled your operations?
It's been fantastic. I've had only one minor issue,
Hmm.
but the main thing, just like with your tenants, you're doing screening. Um, the the rules are very clearly set out in the app, and I reiterate those rules before the guest checks in to make sure that they fully understand them. And those are like by saying I reiterate them. Those are automated messages that go out at a certain time before check-in. It's pretty hands off. The power of that though is the control. If there's people on the property that you don't want there, if there's damage, there's insurance, if there's whatever, there's always a really good repercussion that we don't have as landlords in Ontario that I really appreciate. I actually rent out my Airbnbs as long-term rentals through the app, and it has been fantastic. So the majority of my clients are typically people who sold their homes, but they don't have possession yet of their new home.
Hmm.
That's my bread and butter clientele. And yeah, that has been absolutely fantastic. They don't have a lot of stuff. It's all in storage or
Right.
whatever. And they usually have a pet, whatever, it's fine. Um, and they're usually between 30 and 60 years old. They're not ruining the place by any means. You know,
Right.
one guy, he's just bored out of his mind because he can't work. And this like kind of retired-ish kind of guy, he
Hmm.
fixed a bunch of stuff. He's just like, I just had
Right.
nothing else. I got these supplies, and I just figured like you'd like this. And yeah, it was fantastic. Like that, it's been good in that sense. On the nightmare scenario, which people always go to, and I feel like focus on instead of taking action. Um, it wasn't even that bad. The guy that I had in there was fantastic, but his ex girlfriend tracked him down using Snapchat Maps, which he forgot to delete her on,
Hmm.
and found him there and thought he was cheating on her, although they're broken up, and he was alone. But anyways, so she's banging on the door, screaming outside, kicking the windows on that are on the lower thing. Nothing got damaged or anything like that for that. And then he like tells her to go away, and she starts beating him up, and he points out that she's on camera. So she decides this is a really good time to destroy the camera. So yeah, he ended up paying for the camera damage and whatever else. But it's just a funny, whatever. At the end of the day, um, the guest was great. The crazy ex girlfriend was not.
Hmm.
Um, but that's fine. So I don't think these types of things should scare people away from taking action, because there's always a very easy solution. To most pretty much any problem in real estate just requires a little bit of money. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great story. I usually get in some of these webinars usually a good Airbnb story here and there, and that was a pretty good one. So I'm glad it worked out with nobody getting hurt, I assume, but only the camera. So that's good to hear. But this I think helps to paint a little bit of a better picture about your background and how you kind of got started. And a couple of things that I picked up was that you actually really haven't been in that long, but you have had a lot of success in scaling. And I know with how the market's been lately, a lot of people have wanted to do what you have done, but have been a little bit hesitant. So for those people, who may be here today, who are in that position where they want to take that next step to scale, but maybe they don't have the full picture of where to get started. How do you actually get started on scaling? Like, what types of people should you be talking to? I know you've always been a big fan of networking. So how do you go ahead and how do you get those conversations started? And what types of people should you be talking to? And should you be talking to other people outside of, just whoever you're dealing with for your mortgage?
yeah, for sure. So my first rental property that I ever bought was February 18th, 2020, right before the shit hit the fan for COVID. And
Mhm.
pretty much every single person at that point was really kind of lackadaisical about their COVID preparations in February. Like I think March is when people started taking it a little bit more seriously. But the real estate market, people were really hesitant to buy anything because they were worried about tenants not paying rent and all this other stuff. And I don't know. In my head, I figured people are still going to need a place to live, and chances are they're going to want to pay if they can. So that's kind of where I was coming from. I was like, whatever. Worst case scenario, I'll just go bankrupt. I'm 30. I'll be 37 when it's all said and done, and I'll start again. But now with knowledge, that's the worst case scenario. Is I lose absolutely everything, and I just don't go in title, and I buy with joint venture partners, or I buy commercial where it's not necessarily me personally securing the asset or something like that. So with that kind of in mind, I bought that first duplex February 18, 2020 for about 200 grand, did a bunch of renos. And this is in like Southwestern Ontario, London, Ontario market. And refinanced it for 400 and got some great tenants in there and just started going again and again. And it was kind of tuning out the people that were telling me no and finding people instead that told me how to do it.
Right.
And if that how wasn't strong enough, then you don't do the deal. But just taking a no as your automatic default, that's garbage. I was the last person to the deal on that deal. Literally everyone walked through that deal. All the wholesalers picked through it, all the realtors, all their clients, everyone. I was like literally the last person. The guy's like begging someone to take this take this deal.
Yeah.
Like ended up negotiating like a lower wholesale fee and all this other stuff. But I took it. Everything went wrong. It got broken into. Tools got robbed. Stuff got stolen. The whole basement had to be gutted because of mold, and I didn't plan for that. Everything went wrong, and I still, like, granted, due to like a lot of luck with the market appreciation and stuff, but I still made money. And even if I'd lost a little bit of money, I wouldn't have lost a lot of money there. But even if I'd lost a little bit of money, the knowledge coming from that first deal gave me the confidence to do every other deal. So it's worth 10, 20, 50 grand, it doesn't even matter. And people don't think of it like that. I see a lot of comments on my Instagram when I post, like I was talking about kicking out a prostitute today who's door knocking on my doors, kicking out these random substance users that decide to use like my laundry room or whatever, the common areas as a place to hang out. Dealing with like the break-ins on a different unit. They're like, how can you deal with this? How can you even go inside that building? That's a question. And my question to you in retort would be, if I paid you $10, would you go in there? Probably not. What if it was 10,000? What if it was $100,000 to go inside? You'd probably freaking do it.
Right.
Probably
great point.
$100,000.
Yeah.
And now that's what you have to that's how I reframe my thinking. I chose these problems because they're paying me extremely well to solve them. And that's what I want to do. I want to solve problems that no one else wants to solve. But I want to get paid well to do it. I'm not going to do it if I'm not going to get paid well.
Right.
So for the people that are like kind of on the fence about what to do or why, just find a problem that you want to solve that no one else wants to solve, and you'll make money doing it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that's some, maybe not even just some a good real estate advice, some good life advice as well when you encounter no's. And so let me ask you then, did you find that you encountered a lot of no's when you were first getting started? Did maybe people not take you seriously, or, what did you encounter with respect to no's early on?
So yeah, I just wanted to touch, like you had kind of asked about who I was networking with and who I talked to about like kind of going to scale. I talked to everyone. A lot of no's came from the bank initially. One of the things that I learned very early on is banks don't like financing crack houses,
Right.
especially vacant crack houses that get broken into. So I had to, if the bank's saying no, then who's going to say yes? Well, it's going to be private lenders. Private lenders are going to say yes because they don't care. They know you'll pay through one way or another, or they'll take the property and make a profit on it. They're lending at a decent enough price range that they'll make money. So that's one no I encountered. Another no was supply chain issues from COVID and stuff. And it's just find different suppliers, find different loopholes, find different materials to use, whatever it is. There's always going to be someone that tells you no, but in real estate, the main thing that I've learned is there's no such thing as no. It is always who can solve this problem for me or help me solve this problem. And that's about it. Money at the end of the day will solve most problems in real estate. Talking to strangers as well about finding deals. One of the deals that I got came from like this random guy in a horse and buggy selling maple syrup on the side of the road. Talking to him about like ended up getting the lead came from this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was absolutely fantastic. But talk to everyone. Tell them what you want, but you also need to be very specific about what you want. Because if you just say, well, I want a duplex, so do 50,000 other people. No one cares about you. So you gotta like stand out a little bit, maybe be very specific. So like as an example, I'm just making this shit off the top of my head. It's like duplex, doesn't matter about egress windows or walkout or anything. I can figure that out. The basement. Ideally like 1,000, 1,500 square feet, maybe a bit of a backyard. I don't care what condition it's in. I don't care kind of what part of town it's in. But I want like 1,500 square feet, please, for the basement. Either walkout or a window, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll figure that out. But a separate entrance would be great. And giving someone like more specific criteria like that, they see it and they think of you.
Right.
Like an exercise I like doing every now and then is you can pick a random car and color, and while I'm driving around, you see what you're looking for.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh my God, there's so many of those. Right? But now you just are training your brain to look for that thing. And if you can train others to look for that thing for you, just by building a relationship with them and telling them like, this is exactly what I want, you're going to find it. It's going to show up.
Well, that's a really interesting point, and that actually leads me to a question regarding looking for specifics. When you're expanding your portfolio, would you classify that as more of your approach, or is it more opportunistic, or a blend of both, or what are your thoughts in that respect?
When I first started doing this thing, my goal was like 1 unit or a year for 10 years and then retire type thing. In the first and
So sorry.
Everyone. What's that?
Oh, sorry. I thought we lost you for a second. I think you're good now.
I'm back. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, my goal initially was one property a year for 10 years, sell them slowly and retire type of thing. But in the first like 3 or 4 months of doing real estate, I had 3 or 4 deals. Right. And I realized at that point, the goal was shitty, and it was much easier to do this than I thought. And the way that it was easier was by finding different people to do different things that I didn't know how to do. Mm-hmm. And that could be like finding deals. It could be getting the financing together. And granted, like I did have a little bit of money from that first refinance that I told you about, but at the same time, everyone's going to run out of money at some point. So you have to start learning how to raise it.
Right.
And learning how to raise money at that point was kind of critical. And the stage or the mindset that I was in back then was kind of begging for money.
Right.
Like, I really want to do this. Can you help me? It's not like that anymore for me. I think of it completely differently, where I'm presenting a deal, I'm presenting an opportunity, and I'm presenting a chance for them to make money, not the other way around where I'm asking for money. This is an opportunity for you to invest. So, but yeah, talking to realtors, lawyers, janitors, cleaners, used appliance people, contractors to get leads. These, like, just imagine like a commercial cleaner or a used appliance guy, how many places they go into that probably need a little bit of love.
Yeah.
You know, talk to these people, talk to your professionals, talk to everyone. So.
And that's a good point. But, you know, as somebody, who I think, based on some of what you're telling me, you've really taken an outgoing approach to it. And I think that's quite admirable, because I think it's a lot different than what a lot of people are used to. I hear a lot of people talk about they just stick to their team and their team's contacts, and that's it. Have you developed a bit of your own power team as well, or do you really keep it loose in that respect?
Yeah, so I have a lawyer I pretty much use all the time. We have a great relationship. I have a few contractors that I use constantly, like year round, all the time. Other than that, like I've worked with realtors multiple times. I've worked with different wholesalers multiple times, that type of thing. But every single one of them, when I go into that relationship, they know that our relationship is transaction based, in the sense of we're doing a deal together. Right. It's not like I'm coming to your wedding, and because I came to your wedding, now you're giving me a deal. Like, it's not. There's no expectation of favors.
Right.
They're getting paid very well to bring me deals, and I'm getting deals. Like, that's the definition of a transactional relationship. Nothing wrong with that. But don't try to lead people on and stuff. Like I feel like maybe people get they're like, oh well, I'll take this guy out to lunch, and I'll drop off like gifts for his family and all this other stuff, in the hopes that he'll like think of me when a deal comes up. That's garbage.
Right.
There's no way that one deal that kind of comes out of the sky is going to be a perfect fit for you every time. And like, I've seen people get angry when that deal that comes up doesn't go to them.
Right.
It's like, you weren't top of mind for this deal. So don't waste your time doing stuff like that, I think. Instead of like, also like, I tried wholesaling for a bit, so setting up flyers and stuff. I hated it. Absolutely hated it, with the phone calls and all this other garbage. So instead, I started just going out for lunch with people, going out for dinner with people. And I spent probably the same, like $5,000, let's just say. Let's just call it 10 lunches, $50 $1,000 on flyers. And now all of a sudden, not only have you had lunch, but you've also made connections with people that know exactly what you're looking for, and that are realtors that are doing a bunch of advertising anyway without your monetary input. So I don't know, different ways to think of things.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I gotta say, like, I really like that approach, and it sounds like you're starting to well, obviously you are, but you're combining a lot of these things where you're doing the outgoing thing, you're reaching a lot of people, but also providing them with the specifications. So you're maximizing the opportunities, which I think is probably led you to be able to scale so well. But it sounds like those are a lot of things that have helped you and gone right. I'm sure there's been a few things that have gone wrong. What advice do you have for people who are maybe doing the things that you're doing, or are about to, that plan to or want to scale? In hindsight, are there any things that you would watch for, or perhaps do differently?
Before we move on to that, I think that's really important, because people get kind of scared of the things that can go wrong. But I just want to point out the apartment deal that I ended up getting. On Tuesday, I told someone that I want an apartment building. And kind of foolishly, I didn't have any money. I've never bought an apartment building before, and blah, blah, blah. There's no goddamn reason to say this, but I said it. And so Tuesday night, I get told, hey, me and my realtor are going to go check out this place tomorrow on Wednesday. Do you want to go check it out? It's like, all right, send me the details. Let's see. And they sent me the details. It's kind of garbage. It's like 20 units, 1 beds, no parking. I said, no, like what I want exactly is like a 3-story walk up, lots of parking. It's a dump. I don't care. Flat roof, pitch roof, I don't care, but no elevator, about 20, 30 units, and 2 beds, 1 beds, maybe some bachelors, with lots of parking. Wednesday night, I get a call for Thursday walkthrough. Do you want to go on the walkthrough? I found something just like that. Yes, let's go on the walkthrough. Thursday night, we put in the offer. Thursday night, the offer is accepted. So from Tuesday to Thursday, putting that out there turned into, now we have a building under contract. And I just want to like keep talking to people, whoever's listening, just talk to everyone. Moving on to the challenges. There have been so many things I've screwed up on. It's cost me probably tens of thousands of dollars by now, maybe more. But I think of them now as speeding tickets. If you're going fast on the highway, I'm going 120 right now. I feel like that's pretty safe. Well, no one's gonna pull me over for going 120.
Right.
But let's just say you're going 180. You're asking for trouble. You know, like that is trouble waiting to happen. But if you're going at that speed, you are, I hope, ready to deal with the consequences of your actions. So for me, going at the speed I'm going in real estate, I like going fast. And I know that I don't know everything, but I know that the cost of going fast is like inconsequential compared to the growth.
Right.
And that's how I think about it. So an example of that, I signed a letter of intent with a company. I'm not going to name them. And it had like a rough idea of what the commitment letter would require from me. I didn't fully understand the detail of this, and it kind of screwed me over when it went to a commitment letter. So for those who are kind of new to this, when you do a letter of intent, you give a deposit for them to go to a commitment letter on a large commercial property, because they spend time and invest time for the underwriting and all this other stuff. That's a deposit for them to actually do the work. No problem. In the commitment letter, there was two things that kind of screwed me over. Long story short, I lost my $15,000 deposit because I didn't sign the commitment letter at the end of the day. But yeah, like I can go into the details if someone's really interested, but the long story short here is you're gonna not know everything, and it's gonna cost you some money if you want to go fast. But I would argue to anyone that I started with 1.5 years ago in February, that is still analyzing their first goddamn deal, I've made a little bit more by doing things than by not doing things.
Right.
And I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
So just do the deal if it makes sense, and the rest you can kind of figure out.
Yeah, that's great. And you know, I think that's a problem, or maybe something that a lot of people run into. Is they're just waiting for the perfect opportunity. They're overanalyzing the opportunity that does present itself. So that's a very good point. And then one other question with respect to scaling, you know, I think it sounds like at least early on, you had a little bit of a niche where you were just saying, hey, listen, like, you know, just because other people have said no to it doesn't mean I'm going to. Do you believe in more of a blended portfolio, or do you believe in going after different segments as you're scaling? What's been your approach for that?
So consider me an absolute moron that doesn't know what they're doing. I have no plans, I have no goals, I have no anything. I stumble into deals, and if they make sense, I do the deal.
Great.
That is it. So what my portfolio kind of looks like now, it's a bunch of duplexes and fourplexes, and some townhomes, and this apartment building. Some of them are Airbnbs, most of them are long-term rentals. Everything that I kind of run into, I try it. If it works, then I keep doing it. And that's kind of it. I don't have any master plan or strategy or anything like that. And I know that's kind of shitty, and I should at some point, but that's what's worked for me, where when an opportunity comes up, I just say yes and figure it out. And that's kind of obviously screwed me over a couple times here or there, where I have to pay a little bit more, or I have to extend closing with some extra money or whatever, some sort of thing. But it's worked out for the most part. And the failures are like tiny little blips, monetary blips really, but not time blips. And I feel time is much more valuable than money in this game.
Right. And I think one that, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe I'll be onto something here is in other situations I've heard where people have scaled quickly, you know, one thing that I think happens overnight for a lot of them, and this maybe has happened to you, maybe not, but things just become overwhelming very quick. All of a sudden you're at 1, then you're at 5, then you're at 10. That's multiplying of the calls, multiplying of the maintenance work, of all the renos. Did you put together a team? Did you add technology? What did you do to reduce maybe your stress and your pain points when it came to all of that growth and all of the extra work that comes along with it?
Yeah, you bet. So I was actually talking to Andrew about this. In October 2020, I went from having like 20, 30 tenants roughly, which was actually quite manageable because I had like some of them out of town, under property management, stuff like that. and I was managing maybe 10, 15 units, pretty piece of cake. But then all of a sudden, from October 31st to November 1st, I had 85 tenants. And now all of a sudden, I don't know what the hell I was doing. It's a completely different game. So deploying technology was definitely critical. At that point, we were using like Buildium, like Tenant Cloud, that type of stuff. There are definitely weaknesses with each platform. We started talking about Tenantcube, of course. I've deployed Tenantcube on the 33-unit apartment building now. It's been really easy to work with.
Yep.
So that's been fantastic. But the technology, it's critical to grow and scale. And maybe not only the technology, but also just understanding that for us as real estate investors, we are the executive officer of the business, not the operator of the business. And I say that kind of sheepishly and whatever, because I do everything still. Like, I'm still a peasant in my own business here, but I'm working towards it. And outsourcing different things is a critical part, but also systematizing different things, and having a phone number to call or a technology to rely on, where you are not sending 2,000 texts a day or some nonsense, where some of it at least is automated. And I've been really good about that in my Airbnb business, where my cleaners are automated, my purchases are automated for cleaning supplies and all this other stuff. Even my guest replies are automated for the most part. But in my real estate business, I've not yet taken the time to do that properly. And that's kind of unfortunate in that sense, but I'll get there. And Tenantcube is definitely a part of that. So.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you probably accurately portrayed a feeling that a lot of people have had when you made that move last, I guess it would be 2 falls ago now. But yeah, that's pretty wild. And with respect to just maybe some key takeaways, because I want to be respectful of your time. I do thank you for joining us. But if you had a couple of key takeaways for anybody who is interested in scaling their business, what would probably be the 1 or 2 key takeaways for taking that next step and moving those operations forward?
So I'm going to assume that one of their main issues that they're having is deal flow. So that's definitely still an issue for me. So in that sense, like blue ocean strategy, where you don't go where the water is bloody. That's a whole book. You can read that whole book. It's called Blue Ocean Strategy. But the theory is you don't go where the water's bloody, you go where the water's blue. And you go there for the fish that are untapped, untouched. And that's you swimming as a shark, you go there. So for me, what that looks like in my strategy is going for deals that no one wants to touch. I've become kind of a crack house specialist, I guess. That's one thing. And also starting to look out of town, out of province, where there's so much opportunity with none of the competition that we have here in Ontario. So that's one thing, one takeaway. Think of it as a blue ocean strategy. Look for problems to solve that other people don't want to solve. Number 2, create a system that allows you to analyze a deal so that at the bottom of the spreadsheet, it just says yes or no. There's no emotions tied to this. Put in the numbers, the true proper numbers, so that you're not lying to yourself. And then if it says yes at the bottom, do the goddamn deal. Don't worry about figuring out financing or whatever. You'll figure it out when your name says I've waived conditions. You better figure it out. But do the deal and just say yes to something that's good and figure it out later. Everything is figure outable in this, and like everything's just a money problem in real estate.
So it sounds like you're more of the take action approach and sort out the details later in a lot of situations. Is that safe to say?
I feel like a lot of people procrastinate by reading the book.
Right.
I'll give you a couple examples. Thinking Fast and Slow. Underneath it, it says like a quick summary, a synopsis. If you read the title and maybe a few pages in the book, you know what the hell to do. And at that point, you're reading the rest to procrastinate, not taking action. There's so many books like this. Like, they're great books. Don't get me wrong. They have a great message and whatever else. But if you read like the cover, maybe the back, maybe a few pages. You know what the hell to do. Do
Right.
the thing then. Like reading another book is not going to help you anymore at that point. Just do it. Just like stop reading
Yeah.
books and just do the thing.
That's great. And James, do you mind if I open it up? I've got a couple of questions that have come through. Are you okay for a couple viewer questions?
I'm good for another hour.
All right, great. Well, I won't hold you for that long. We do appreciate you being here, but we'll wrap it up with a few questions. Hopefully, they don't take the full hour. But a couple of fun questions. So the first one that's come through was, were you scared to leave your job?
Oh my God, so scared. So scared. So for 15 years, my entire life goal was to become an engineer. Like not 15 years towards that goal, but 15 years working towards an engineer or being an engineer.
Mhm.
And leaving it was extremely terrifying. Not necessarily like at that point was already I was making, you know,
I think we just lost you for a half second there.
pretty. Uh-oh. Oh no.
I think we might be able to hear you now. Do you want to try that again?
So yeah, I was just saying, like I was terrified. Not on the monetary side of things. Real estate was already making me enough money at that point, more than my day job. But on the side of security, on the side of like these random myths that insurance is super expensive and my eyeglasses are now going to cost money because I don't have benefits and dental is like crazy through the roof. Again, like it's like 10 grand to figure all this stuff out.
Right.
So that was like one fear that I figured out, but that was one thing. And then also the identity crisis. For like the longest time, I was working towards being an engineer or introducing myself as an engineer. So letting go of that was like personally kind of difficult. Like I'm still wearing my engineering ring and whatever else. But yeah, it was scary, but it was also worth it to leave. So do it.
Yeah, that sounds like it. And I mean, I can only imagine how scary it would be, especially doing something that you've worked so long towards. But it sounded like it paid off. Another question. This is actually just looks like it's touching on one of the last things you said. Did you end up expanding outside of Ontario?
Not yet. I have a couple offers in. So my wife right now is in Saskatoon for school. When I went out there with her to like kind of drop her off and set her up for the next couple months, I looked at a bunch of properties. There's some really interesting leads out there, and that's where I'll be going next personally.
Awesome. And last one, and we'll wrap it up. And I just want to extend not only thanks from us at Tenantcube, but for all the viewers for giving us the time and giving us these great insights. So the last question we're going to go with is: do you think you will stop scaling, or will you
Honestly,
continue with your growth?
yeah, so I have no idea. Like, I don't have any goals or plans or anything like that. I just kind of walk around and talk to people, and then deals kind of show up based off of that. Like, I accidentally bought 2 duplexes. Like, I didn't need to, but it's too good. It's too good. So in terms of scaling, yeah, like I'd like to go to bigger stuff for sure. I need to refinance this apartment building. I'm in the process of doing that now, and yeah, once that's done, like I'm gonna have money to do something with. So what am I gonna do? I'm not gonna buy a Lamborghini or like whatever. Like I like doing this stuff, so I'm sure like something's gonna come up. I don't have any plans for scaling or not scaling, one way or the other. I don't plan my life like that. It just kind of happens.
No, that's great. And it sounds like it's been your approach the whole time. And I mean, if it's working for you, why change it up, right? But you know what? I know I said that was the last question. Well, I'm going to throw one of my own questions in here. Did you ever end up getting the Tesla 3?
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So.
Oh, wonderful. So mission accomplished.
Yeah, yeah. She's taking me to Toronto right now. So.
Awesome. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up. And again, James, I just want to thank you for all the great insights. Let's do this again.
Awesome. Great. Love to do it, and talk to you.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon. And I'd like to thank all the audience and everybody who's joined us today. Again, James Fernandez, some great insights today. You heard it directly from him. You know, those key areas are going to be just going out, doing the networking, taking the chances, and making the most of every opportunity. Again, we're here with Tenantcube. Please feel free to reach me if you have any questions regarding Tenantcube, or if you have any questions for James, we can always pass those along later. So thank you so much for joining, everybody, and you'll get a copy of this in an email after the webinar as well. Take care, everybody.